to PD. This is a bit different today because typically it is on Tuesdays where I host the Praxis Speech Sisters live. But I felt, you know what, this is a chat that SLPs to be, clinical fellows, and already practicing speech language pathologists can really have under their belt. And today we are talking about money mindset shifts that you can start making in 2023 and really for the rest of your lives. Now, the original live podcast was called Money Mindset Shifts for an Abundant Career in Speech Language Pathology. But really, these are shifts that you can practice in any area of your life and in any profession. Okay, sorry, I'm just making sure my dog isn't doing anything crazy. He's getting busy. So you might hear him. I brought him in here to I brought him in here just so he won't be out there barking. Okay. So I do also want to say that this is an episode that is sponsored by lyriccare.com. Y'all, if you have not signed up for lyriccare.com, go ahead and sign up. It is completely free, an exclusive online community just for speech language pathologists and special educators. So you can think of it like a LinkedIn, but for SLPs. I like it honestly better than LinkedIn because who actually just gets on LinkedIn and even checks their messages on there, right? And it is completely free. Now, one thing that Lyric has, they have a new hiring and salaries feature on there that I really encourage everyone to check out. They have salary norms on there, the salary averages for speech language pathologists. They have negotiation tips for speech language pathologists. Go ahead and check it out. Oh, and also resumes, just tips on resumes. So if you're ready to beef up your resume a bit, this is especially good for clinical fellows who are just getting started out. I know that some graduate school programs don't really have a lot of advice or support in that area. So check out lyriccare.com. Now, I will go ahead and just give a disclaimer when it comes to talking about money mindset shifts. This is something that I had to work on myself. I come from a middle class family, and we'll get into my money story when we get further along in this episode. But I come from a middle class family. My mom is a lawyer. My father was always in law enforcement. We'll actually be having him on the Pediatric Speech Sister Show podcast at the end of May. I'm very excited about it. And they came from different backgrounds. So I grew up in a home where my father, they both were in the military. And my father came from very humble beginnings in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, whereas my mother, she was birthed by a man in the military, my grandfather, and an educator. And they had a bit more cushion. My mother, as my dad might explain it, she was very spoiled. So my mother's mindset around money is very different about my dad's mindset on money. My dad's mindset on money is a lot more cautious. That man hates spending money. He hates spending money. I joke about it, but really, he does prefer to hold on to his coins as much as possible and save for a rainy day. Whereas my mom has the mindset, or growing up, she really had the mindset of, I'll spend, but it'll come back to me. There's always going to be more. So I'm a merge of the two. And I can say that both influences have really helped me. And at the same time, both have um, I don't want to say hindered me, but it has made it very hard for me to create my own money story because I'm like, well, do I spend? And then I'll feel guilty for spending. Okay. So some people listening to this might connect to the money story that I just said. And as I'm talking, I want you all to think about your own money story and where your mindset around money has come from. Now, this talk came from my original post on Instagram. So I will be referencing this post a lot. You can go ahead and check it out at Pediatric Speech Sister on Instagram. And it was originally meant for BIPOC SLPs because we especially suffer from white supremacy. Really, everybody suffers from white supremacy in the United States, but especially people of color and women of color. So not only do we have to deal with the gender wage gap, but we also have to deal uh, with the racial gap. And even if you aren't a woman of color or don't identify as a woman of color, you might experience these barriers. And it's very felt and does a lot to our psyche. So it really takes a lot of unlearning these patterns. So let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of this episode. I really want us to find healthier ways that we can manage our money and healthier ways that we can think about our money. I come from a very spiritual perspective that money is not the root of all evil. Money is actually our birthright. Financial prosperity is actually our birthright. So there are people who are afraid of making money. There are people who subconsciously are afraid of having thick wallets, right? Because you really just see corrupt people a lot of times having a lot of money. We think about, I didn't want to throw their names out, but we think about like the Kardashians or even the Trumps, whether you support Trump or not, there's still a connotation, right? That you have to show something to get it back. And that's just simply not the case. There are a lot of other great influential people in the United States who have done great things with their money. And that can also be you. So, the first thing I want to say, a mindset shift, is to invest in yourself. That is one mistake that we make. And again, just thinking about people of color too, we are afraid to invest in ourselves. And by that, I mean, even going to college, going to graduate school, there's a financial strain there. Or if you see a course or even a book that might be a bit expensive or out of what you would normally spend at one time, you might be afraid to invest in that, even though that there is a promise that you'll get it back. I've been there. I've invested in a lot of programs, and that's also I've invested in a not money mindset program. It's actually Doje, and so you can look that up. I'll include that in the show notes when I post a replay. Um, but they talk a whole lot of about a lot of money mindset shifts. Now, I will say though, this program is not cheap because there is a long-term promise. There's a long-term promise. So really it's just an investment, just like education is it's an investment. I know for myself, I paid 50K for grad school and I had a graduate assistantship, but I maxed out all of my loans so that way I could afford to live in the nation's capital. Now that was an investment. Now, I could come out in a year making 50K. Of course, I'm not going to spend my whole annual salary on student loans. At the same time, that was an investment for me. Okay. So, my advice here, everyone, is to take risks. Ask God or whoever you believe, a higher power, ask God for financial support on your goals. They have come to you, these goals have come to you for a reason. All you need to do is really just have faith and ask for a strategy to get there. Okay, so I also do have here on this post, do not be afraid to ask for money if you need it. Ask support from a loved one. Say, hey, there's this course that I really want to take. Can I please fill in the blank? Or it would really help me out if you can do XYZ. Some people don't have a support system or might not feel that comfortable, but trust me, there's always a way and there's always a time for it. The second I want to recommend is stop shaming yourself. Stop shaming yourself for your financial mistakes. Now, this is something that I still work on, but I've gotten a lot. It's gotten easier as I noticed that that's how I felt every time I spent money going to Starbucks, feeling shame around it. You feel it in your body. And that's trauma. You might notice when you spend a lot of money, even when you pay bills. You just feel tense in your body, and that's trauma. You might have a flashback of all the debt that you have, or have a flashback of lights being turned off, or whatever you might have witnessed as a kid. And I'm telling you again, changing your money story, shifting your mindset will really help you make those long-term gains that you need to build generational wealth for your family. So, the second step again is stop shaming yourself. Remind yourself that you are worthy. Okay. You are worthy of financial increase. Shaming yourself really does not help anything at all. It doesn't bring more money in your bank account. It doesn't help your mental health. Okay. Really think about those things. The third thing, Not financially planning. So we talked about shaming ourselves. Let's talk about financially planning. So I have shamed myself, right? And I'm talking about even current current things where I've shamed myself for, current spending habits I've shamed myself for because I have trauma from past experiences where I did not manage my money at all. I was just spending, spending, spending. I would be afraid to check my bank account. I always talk about how in graduate school and even in college, I lived in Washington, D.C. So, anywhere, anyone who's coming from the East Coast knows that DC is a place for brunch. So, I would get paid on Friday, go out Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, come back on Monday, and my account would be very low. Don't even talk about it. It'd be like in the double digits, sometimes even the single digits. And I'd be like, where did all of my money go? And one thing that my father has told me, and I also recommend checking into Dave Ramsey, is you want to make sure you're telling your money where to go rather than wondering where it went. Tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So, what does that mean? What do I do to get there? Well, the first thing you want to do is set up a money ritual with yourself, just a money ritual. So, some people have their rituals like let me get up every morning and read a book for an hour, or let me go meet my girlfriend at brunch, right? Or at the nail salon every weekend, whatever that may be. Well, go ahead and sprinkle in some more self care and consider it self care, a money ritual with yourself. Go through your finances, pay bills, write on a little sticky note. Okay, let me go ahead and call this bank, that bank. Let me see if there's something I can do. Let me see if I can consolidate these loans. Let me see if I can get this bill reduced. Something that will take care of yourself, something that your future self will thank you for. And by doing this, y'all, I felt like I had more control. And that's been a lift. That's definitely been a lift off my shoulders. So I feel like I have more control over my finances. I feel braver to take those financial risks because I'm like, okay, well, I know what I have in my account. I know what I have in my savings account. So, let's just say this falls through this month. I know that I'll be okay. So, I know that there are people with kids and there are people with spouses listening to this. This is something that you should definitely do with your spouses. And this is something that you should do on behalf of your kids. And I know that it might be even scarier and worrisome to take those risks because it's like, I have other mouths to feed. It's not just me. Still, talk to God. Ask God for help. Ask God for a strategy. Ask people for help. I mean, and even when you just go back to God or go back to prayer and even your higher self, because you really do have the wisdom, you'll make a step in the right direction. You'll know when to make that step in the right direction. God might show you a person you can go to. God might show you a resource for additional help. God might show you, okay, well, maybe let's cut this out this month. Or do you really even need that? Right? So you'll know exactly what that is for you. Also, when it comes to financial planning, that sounds really boring, but I mean, financial planning also means fun. So I know I'm someone who really likes to take trips. I really like to go on trips. I love to treat my inner child and go out for ice cream every now and then. And I mentioned Starbucks. I am a Starbucks fiend, but I had to scale back, and it felt okay to scale back too. And it became more of a treat. So now instead of going 3 times a week, I'm like, you know what? Double Star Tuesdays will be my day. How about that? Double Star Tuesdays will be my day. I'll go to Starbucks. I'll spend $10. True story. I'll spend $10 on this venti. Okay. Anyway, let's move forward. So, another financial mistake that you might be making is not dreaming big. So, after I say this, I really want you to think about what is a big goal that you actually really have, but you've been doubting yourself on even achieving this goal. So, for me, it is a Ferrari. I want a Ferrari. Call me materialistic, call me classist. I don't care. I want a Ferrari. Why? Because Ferraris look very nice. I like the interior. I like how fast they can go. I would say a Tesla, but I also spend my money cautiously to where I'm not investing in something I don't believe in. I don't believe in Elon Musk and what he does, so I'm not going to put money into his pocket. So that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so dream big, and honestly, it does go beyond materialism, right? Other things you might plan on going back to school. Dream big. Some people say, "Well, I don't want to go back to school because of the financial commitment." Take risks. Plan. So you're noticing how all of these things fall into line. This is a plan. And so dream big. I do have here on this post that many of us came from low income households, and we're often told that we can't afford the house we want, or that we can't afford the clothes that we want, or the quality of clothes that we want. And from a spiritual perspective, again, wealth is our birthright. Wealth is our birthright. There's the Proverbs 31 woman, and I always think of this because the Proverbs 31 woman, she wears fine linens. And so I'm like, that's just not for her in the Bible. That's just not for the shorty. That's what I was going to say. And Proverbs 31, that's for me too. I can wear fine linens. I don't have to cheat myself and only settle on cheap clothes. In by the way, y'all, I love thrifting. Team thrift, okay. Sheen, I definitely shopped at Sheen too. But then there became a time for me personally where I'm tired of spending money on clothes because they don't last. I'm tired of seeing those sweat stains because the quality is so cheap and not being able to wear them. So that is why I decide to invest in my clothing. Hello to everyone joining. Okay, so dream big. You deserve to live in the future that you seek. Next one, not having a prosperous mindset. Now, this does kind of go hand in hand with not dreaming big. But when I say not having a prosperous mindset, I mean the scarcity mindset, like, well, let me hold my coins because I don't know if I'll get any more money. And I'm saying this and I'm talking to you like this because this is something I have gone through. And this is something that I continue to work on because, hey, when we talk about changing our money story, that's undoing a lot of trauma. So that's a process. And it takes a lot of shadow work to do it. It might even take talking to a therapist to do it and writing it in your journal. It takes inner work to change your money mindset. So I don't want to just come up here in front of you all like, hey, it's just so easy to do it. Okay, this has taken me 2 years to even get to this point to talk to you about it. At the same time, not having a prosperous mindset will keep you from taking those financial risks that could really get you ahead in your life. Once you have that prosperous mindset, you'll realize that all of your goals just start happening faster and faster and faster for you. I've seen it myself. So, to fix this, first of all, I say give your parents grace because, again, it just goes back to the money story. Give your parents grace or your caretakers. Remember that you were not their financial mistakes and you're not your financial mistakes. You can create a new money story every single day. Every day. Every day I wake up and decide it's my birthday. Seriously, every day I wake up and decide that it's my birthday. It's a new day. I can change my money story. Which brings me to my next point. Do not compare yourself to your parents. Do not compare your financial mistakes to your parents. Most of our caretakers worked hard to make sure that we get up and that we're set up for success. Even if you don't get along with your parents or your caretakers, you again have the power to redefine your money story. So, to fix this, journal your parents' old money habits and how you developed your current money story. Then create a new persona reflecting who you are at your highest financial potential. So, for me, my name is Money Bell. And I even have my name, Money Mel, right here on my laptop to remind me who I am. When I do my money ritual every week, I step into my Money Mel persona. And I try to carry that throughout the rest of the week. Sometimes you forget. Look, y'all, at the end of the day, we are in this economy. So you might get hit with something shocking that you didn't even think, oh my gosh, now I gotta go. Now my dog got sick. So I gotta take him to the vet, and it's $300 out of my pocket that I didn't even expect to spend, right? So there are those financial hits that you might have. At the same time, really try to reflect on who you are at your highest potential and make a choice. It's a conscious choice. Make it a habit to step into that role every day. Okay, last one, y'all. Not saving or investing regularly. Oof, this is a big one because many of us in the US, most of us in the United States are living check to check, which is scary. That is not secure at all. One thing I noticed though is when you automate your expenses, and by automate, I mean you can either talk to your employer, sometimes you can have different bank accounts set up, or you can go to your bank. Your bank might be able to automate it for you, but you don't even want to think about it. So when you get your big check from your job, your full-time employment, or maybe even part-time employment, if you can do it this way, make sure that money is going to savings. Make sure that 10% is going to tithes, okay, or a foundation that you really care about, because that's abundance too. Knowing that you can give and receive just as quickly, okay? And putting enough money aside for emergency funds. And then you'll know that whatever's in your regular checking account, at least this is how mine's set up, whatever's in my regular checking account, that's discretionary spending. So I feel rich, and I know I'm rich because every single check, it comes through. Every single check, my savings grows. And I'm not nervous. I'm not scared that I'm overspending because, oh, okay, hey, this is what I have. Also, be sure to have a separate account for bills, of course, right? So I do recommend, I forgot to put this disclosure at the beginning. I am not a financial advisor. Okay. So do not start coming to me for accounting questions. I'm a speech language pathologist, but these are things that I have learned through investing in my financial education and through my own experience, and also just understanding what it's like to be Black or be a person of color in this profession when you're really getting paid pennies for burning yourself out. Um, Talk to a financial coach. Definitely get an investing account when you can. So, all right, y'all. Looks like my dog is ready for a walk. I'm going to go. I really hope that this episode, that this Instagram Live, YouTube Live helped somebody today. And until then, I will see you tomorrow. I'm so excited. I have Danny L. Williams. He's an old high school friend, but his family survived the Tulsa race riot. Unfortunately, their business didn't, but they didn't let that stop them. They have generational wealth. And so Danny's going to sit here tomorrow and tell us how we can create generational wealth for our families. Until then, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, fam.